With the horrific news that the MRHA have approved the jabs for babies, Dr. Cartland joins us once again. Dr. Cartland, has this decision kind of surprised you a little bit by the MRHA, given the fact that this information about vaccine damages is everywhere now?
Absolutely, Gareth. It's as a doctor and as a parent as well. I go to the school playground every day and see children, and knowing that their parents are going to be taking them down the vaccine centre that day, it's just absurd, really. We know that COVID-19 is a low-risk disease in the cohort. Well, any healthy adult, but they've gone all the way back now to children and now babies with this latest announcement. We know that most children that do get COVID, they've had previous exposure to coronaviruses. It gives them a mild illness, if any symptoms whatsoever. So the call for the experimental mRNA vaccine to be used on them is just abhorrent, really. Can't get my head around it.
How do you think they're going to get away with it? Because in theory, I mean, this is a theory, that they must have to justify it to some degree at least. Looking at statistics, even if you accept the narrative statistics, there's no reason to do this. I don't understand how they can justify it.
No, exactly that. So, I've been throwing down the gauntlet to my medical colleagues for a long time now, even with the older age cohorts, asking them to show me this evidence, show me the trial data. I mean, it really does boil down to the fact that all the major drug companies that produce the mRNA vaccine, they excluded people from the trials, for being under 30, over 50, any comorbidities whatsoever, if they were pregnant. These trials were not done on massive numbers of children. The ones that they did do trials on, it's really poor science, really. And the data out there is pretty damning when it comes to its efficacy in children. It doesn't last very long as well. We know that from the published research. It lasts, I think there's a study that shows in 5 to 11-year-olds that it lasts about 6 weeks before it becomes a negative efficacy, i.e. it makes the immune system worse off.
It's insane. And the fact that the MRHA are funded so heavily by pharmaceutical companies, I mean, it's bizarre to me that's even allowed, that you've got an organisation that's set up to regulate drug companies that's funded by drug companies. Do colleagues of yours even have that conversation of the fact that that's blatantly immoral?
Well, it is. It's exactly that. It's immoral. Like I said, I don't get a lot of contact with colleagues these days because I've been kicked out of the profession pretty much in terms of locally and nationally. The mere mention of my name tends to get people hanging up on the call, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of we know that Big Pharma run the show in medicine. In my whole training, that's why I've stepped away from the NHS, really, that, everything we do is, there's a pill for every ill, as they train you to think in general practice. You're always, the end point of a consultation often is to give a pill, and if you think about it, Big Pharma don't get rich if the population are healthy.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Was it a patient cured is a customer lost? They very much have that attitude. I mean, we had a guest on last week who was saying he's a homeopath, and he was saying that generally people in the mainstream medical world would kind of dismiss him and laugh at him. But now they're actually starting to say, well, hang on a minute, you might be onto something. Have you got any experience of that, where some people are, maybe a year ago were going, Dr. Cartland, you're mad, that are now going, well, actually, or maybe you're onto something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always think back to my education as a doctor through med school, and you're kind of indoctrinated really to follow the Big Pharma guidelines that ultimately, as I mentioned, end with a drug. And you're almost, subconsciously taught to think of people like homeopaths, acupuncturists, and all those allied health areas of specialist interest that are kind of mad, really. You subconsciously tag them as being a little bit crazy and a bit out there. But, I've seen in the last 6 to 12 months, particularly with dealing with vaccine injuries, that there's a lot of science in what they do. These guys are experts in their own field. But, the more efficacious the treatment is for COVID, for example, the less you're going to hear about it because it's not making anyone rich, is it?
What is your experience in terms of vaccine injuries? Because I'm looking at it where you roll out a vaccine, or a so-called vaccine, to people in their 80s and 70s, and when 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds die, sad as it is, no one really cares. It's like, well, they're old people die. And then the further down it gets, it's kind of like, well, that's a bit weird. 30-year-olds don't normally collapse. That's a bit weird. 18-year-olds don't normally collapse. And now we're getting to a point where it's 6-month-old babies. How bad do you see this getting, and what have you seen so far?
Yeah, so a lot of people contact me really. So I've set up a kind of off-grid health advisory service, and what it's ended up morphing into really is a vaccine injury clinic. And it's really difficult because you can't get doctors to acknowledge that the vaccine has caused any of the injuries, let alone get any robust science behind how to manage these poor folk. I mean, these people took the vaccine with goodwill intended, really, for whatever the reasons, whether it was the right reason, fear of a disease, or to get their travel restrictions lifted, etc. But equally so, the responsibility for helping these people lies with the person who injected them. And I've heard some harrowing stories, really, about people who have been vaccine injured. It seems to be that every single case is different to the previous. People's multi-systems playing up. And I saw the early signs of that, which led to my resignation. I saw people walking into the clinics. I had the vaccine, and 2 days later, X, Y, and Z happened to me. And these people are going to their doctors. And one of the really upsetting, harrowing parts of trying to help them is you hear the stories of where they've gone into their GP surgery, and they kind of describe this sort of palpable change in the atmosphere in the room and the demeanour of the doctor when you dare to even try and explain that this was in close temporal proximity to the vaccine being administered. And these people are getting, like I say, I've just come off a call to somebody who's terribly disabled, and it's so hard to help these folk because the conventional allopathic medicine model, they're just dismissing them. Investigations don't seem to show much in terms of what the cause of the symptoms are. All tests seem to point to nothing. However, these people are debilitated, like I say, from neurological stuff, autoimmune stuff, inflammatory, turbo cancers. People that have gone into remission suddenly have the vaccine, they develop an aggressive cancer, and they're dead within a matter of weeks. And yet no one questions this vaccine. It's almost blasphemy to even say it. And still they still go for younger and younger. And I think that will be the downfall in the end, Gareth. I thought going for 5 to 17-year-olds would be it, but now they're going for babies. So I don't know it's going to take to stop them. I don't know what the critical number of bodies, the excess mortality that we're seeing at the moment outside of COVID-19 is alarming. We're seeing through insurance companies massive claims across loads of different countries. This is a universal phenomenon, the excess mortality, like I said, the life insurance payouts on younger and younger people. It's bankrupting the life insurance business. When will it stop?
It's extraordinary. Well, I'm the same as you, mate. I thought when they got to teenagers that actually parents might, because, a dad might, scull 10 pints on a weekend and not think anything about it. But if his 15-year-old son has 1 pint, he's livid because it's like, that could destroy your liver and whatever, because that's how you parent. You care less about yourself than you do your kids. So I thought, even people that laid their arm out when it came to their kids would go, no thanks. But then so many of them, do you know what I mean? Just went ahead and did it, and that blew my mind.
I mean, it's the children, but it's also the pregnancies as well. I mean, the data is absolutely absurd. I mean, you look at the Pfizer documents that they try to hide away, and you look at their own trial of what happened to these pregnant women and what the fetal outcomes were. And 1/4 of pregnant women reported a severe adverse event. That's a very high percentage. How is this being given? I keep challenging the midwives that are giving the advice it's safe and effective. Please show me the data that backs that. And you've got to remember, the person doing the injecting, the burden of proof for safety and effectiveness is on the claimant, the person who says it. It's not for me to disprove, to show that it's ineffective and unsafe, albeit I can do that very easily. I'm not getting any robust rebuttal from anyone, just a shunning, just a cancel culture around this disgraceful doctor who stood up for medical ethics, safety in children, unborn babies and pregnant mums, and vaccine injured, and being a voice for these people. That's all I've tried to do. I can't get a job in Cornwall now. I'm blacklisted.
I think it's amazing what you're doing, though, Dr. Cutland. I really do, mate. And I appreciate you talking to us. And I just think, I'm the same as you. My hope is that, parents are going to stand up now. You've gone too far. 6 months old, that's enough. We'll draw a line, and that'll be the end of it. But thank you.
You see that now with the uptake across the world now. The uptake's very low. People are voting with their arms, thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll drink to that safely. But thank you so much, Dr. Cutland, for joining us.
No worries. Take care, Gareth. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate.